Okay, y'all, before I even get this out of my mouth, because I'm about to use Kanye West as an example of Cancer rising energy, I already know some of y'all finna be in the comments like, Lika, Kanye West? Girl, absolutely not. But hear me out though. I actually think y'all are looking at the thing wrong. By the end of this episode, I think that I can convince you of why. Remember, this Rising Sign series isn't about explaining someone's entire personality because that's not what the Rising Sign does. Around here, in these streets here, your Rising Sign is your first impression energy and how you initially show up in relationships. So I'm not arguing that Cancer rising explains Kanye West. That would be ridiculous. I'm arguing that one particular relationship pattern illustrates Cancer rising energy really well, because I think the real lesson of Cancer rising has very little to do with being emotional and everything to do with this. Cancer rising has a gift for making people feel like they found home. But when that home becomes tied to a single person, relationship, or chapter of life, accepting that home has changed becomes their hardest lesson. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Cancer rising energy, green flags, red flags, and Mr. College Dropout himself, Kanye West. But before we do, welcome back to Sister Signs and Red Flags, the podcast where astrology ain't therapy, but girl, it's closed. I'm your host, Lika, and if you're new here, hi, hello, and welcome to my show. Thank you so much for tuning in. And to returning viewers and listeners, thank y'all so much for stopping by to check in on your girl, because I really do appreciate it. But you know what? Enough with the pleasantries. Let's just get into the blessing and curse of Cancer rising.
Like, I'm here for it.
So we're going to start today by talking about the Cancer rising green flags. And green flag number one is they make you feel like you belong. Cancer rising has a way of making people feel welcome. They're often the person who remembers your favorite snack, notices when you're quieter than usual, or makes sure everyone has a seat at the table.
Come in, have a seat, spend some time.
They create familiarity almost effortlessly. It does not take much at all. So when you're around them, you don't always necessarily feel entertained, but you do feel included, and there's a difference. And that's why people often describe Cancer rising energy as comforting, like a pillow or a teddy bear. It's not necessarily because they're overly emotional. It's just because they have a gift for creating spaces where people can simply just be themselves. And that leads me to green flag number two. They protect the people that they love. Sometimes ferociously. So once Cancer rising lets you into their inner circle, they become incredibly protective. If you're sick, they'll check on you. If you're celebrating, baby, they're gonna celebrate with you, and they're gonna turn up with you. Turn up, turn up. If someone hurts you, don't even be surprised if they're more upset than you by that hurt. Okay, because Cancer rising often approaches his relationships with the mindset of, if you're mine, I've got you, I've got your back.
Double or nothing.
That kind of loyalty always make people feel deeply cared for and emotionally secure. Now there's green flag number three. They build relationships that feel like home. Cancer rising usually isn't interested in surface level connection.
Absolutely not. That's a full-on no.
They want traditions and the inside jokes and holiday plans and Sunday dinners. You know what I'm saying? Like, Cancer rising is definitely a soul food Sunday dinner kind of sign. And they also want the playlist that reminds them of you. They're often trying to build something that lasts and not just something that's exciting. And that's part of their gift. They don't just date people, they often imagine building a life with them, building a secure life with them.
Remember, we're gonna do this together.
With that being said, let's go ahead and break down the Cancer rising red flags. Baby, don't let the warmth of Cancer rising fool you, boo, okay? You get on their bad side and you will feel them damn claws. So red flag number one is that they can become emotionally territorial because Cancer rising doesn't just get attached to people. They get attached to what those people represent, like the relationship, the family, the traditions, and the routines, right? And it's like they're used to the life that you've built together, and that's beautiful until it isn't, because sometimes they can become so focused on protecting what feels like home that they begin guarding it instead of growing it. And that can look like becoming possessive, overly protective, or struggling to make room for change.
I like traditions, and I like consistency and continuity, and I don't like change.
And red flag number two, they expect you to read between the lines. Cancer rising often feels deeply, right? But doesn't always say what they're feeling directly. Instead of telling you they're hurt, they may become quiet. And instead of asking for reassurance, they may actually pull away. And instead of saying what they need, they may hope you'll just notice. There's that kind of expectation. So the problem is your partner isn't a goddamn mind reader.
Can't read your mind, Penny.
Healthy relationships actually require you to use your words and not to expect your partner to be goddamn Miss Cleo. They not Miss Cleo, boo. So, red flag number three, with Cancer rising, they can hold on to relationships long after they've changed. Cancer rising's gift for making relationships feel like home can become complicated when one person becomes your entire definition of home. And sometimes the relationship isn't what they're holding on to anymore. They're actually holding on to the memory of that relationship, the dream of it, and basically the version of life they imagine. But here's the thing, Cancer isn't just attached to people. Cancer gets attached to versions of life: the family, the house, the routine, the holidays, the future they plan. And the red flag is believing that protecting the relationship means refusing to accept that it's already changed.
That's it, man, go!
Okay, now, before y'all start typing again, this is exactly why I think Kanye West is such a controversial but interesting example of Cancer rising energy. Now, as much as I could drag that man, that's just not something we do over here. But we are going to call out these patterns because that's important.
Now I have two really special people to live for, a whole family to live for. And I'm saying I'm being with this person because, I love this person and she's worth it to me. She's my joy and she brought my new joy into the world.
Memory of your mother, you carry with you each day, and who are her grandchildren?
This would have been the funnest time of her life, to have those kids running around that house. This is the mother of my children, and I apologize for any stress that I have caused.
So, throughout the years, family has always remained central to the way Kanye presents himself. Whether he was talking about his mother, his marriage, his children, or the life he wanted to build, the idea of home has been a recurring theme. And honestly, that's the blessing of Cancer rising. They have a way of making the people they love feel protected and chosen, like they're building something that actually matters. But the curse showed up when that version of home began to change. Because, baby, why y'all want to go do that? So, following his divorce from Kim Kardashian, much of the public conversation centered around his desire to preserve his family, his public comments about the relationship, and quite frankly, his difficulty accepting what that new chapter looked like. And whether you agree with Kanye or not, isn't really the point. It's about the pattern. And that pattern became especially visible when the version of home he had built began to change. Because when a specific version of home changes, sometimes the hardest part isn't losing that relationship. It's basically grieving the life you thought you were going to have. And I think we all can relate to that in some way. But y'all, thankfully now, Kanye does appear to have moved forward into a new chapter of his life. He has now been married to Bianca Censori for more than 3 years. And regardless of how you may feel about their relationship or how he moves in relation to his fans and politics, it is still worth acknowledging that the version of home he once fought publicly to preserve is no longer the only version of home he appears willing to accept. Now, that doesn't erase the past, but if we're going to call out the red flags, we should also be willing to acknowledge when it looks like someone has found a way to move forward, whether we agree with that way or not. So for that, y'all, I'ma just let Kanye have it. I'ma just let him have it. Cancer Rising reminds us that love isn't just about finding home. It's also about knowing when it's time to build a new one or renovate an old one. And I want to hear from y'all. Do you think home can become a red flag in a relationship? Why or why not? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to include your rising sign because we are still doing all of them. And so far, we've officially covered Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and now Cancer. Next up is big Leo energy, Leo rising. And I can't wait to see y'all for that one. So until next time, y'all, stay cute, stay petty, and be safe out there. Bye.